If it's not working, we can totally just wing it. 2 minutes. Okay. 2 minutes. Woo!
And now we're
Okay. Does anybody want to hear a really funny joke whilst we're waiting? Okay, there was a flamingo at the zoo in America, and it was really tall, and all the other birds started like making fun of the really tall flamingo, that they had to put the flamingo in a different enclosure because he was getting bullied a lot, and they were like, we can't have this because the flamingo was ostrich-sized. Ostrich-sized? Ostrich-sized? Yeah, thank you. That's the right reaction.
Anyone else got one? The mic's right there. I'll take it.
I can't give you gold and then you lead up with nothing.
Now, I need that situation when it comes out.
Yeah, where's the dad jokes?
Yeah, you've got a
They're going to be hungry.
I stole it.
I will be.
I mean, otherwise we can always just start, and then when it catches up, it can catch up. I can read my intro that I wrote. All right. Thank you all for joining us today. This is exciting, and we are very thankful that people have arrived to our panel. It's nice to see that there's a bit of a turnout. Today's going to run really conversationally. This is about what we want to do, what you want to do, what we can try to convince Armageddon of, or if they do not want to take part, then what we can do as a plan B. Nothing is a given at the moment. This is all really rhetorical, but if we get really good support from the community, that means that we can push further and put our efforts into it to make it happen for you. So, essentially, we're here to put New Zealand back on the map of cosplay greatness. We have such a wide range of talent here in this country, and the world needs to see it. We want to send people overseas to compete. We want to make sure people know that New Zealand isn't a part of Australia, and we want to bring people to our shores to see our country get photos of their cosplays with us. It's all about creating hype for our talent, it's all about celebrating crafting, and it's all about showcasing the strengths that people want to showcase and having a look at the big and the small achievements. This country is small, and it can be hard and expensive to make things and ship in materials, and oftentimes we work with what we can get, as everybody has seen Silence Cardboard greatness. And guess what? We create masterpieces out of it. Let's nerd out together and show it off. We aren't looking to replace the cosplay parade. We love the parade and seeing everything that our conventions have to offer, but sometimes we want a little bit more. And we want to point out the parts that we're proud of the most and take a minute on stage to really luxuriate in the spotlight. That is why we are here.
That's a big word.
Luxuriate. So, hey, we got a winging! Hey, so Jason Momoa is to help convince that this is good. So, essentially we have a little bit of an overview of the things that we're going to be touching on today. Again, it's all really loosey-goosey. The slideshow is really just bare bones, and then we're going to riff off it, of all the things that we've talked about together with our little team. And go from there. So, starting off, who we are. Hi, Senate. Who are you?
that handsome man.
That's my twin brother. Most guys know me by now. Obviously, known as Spicy Tie Design. Been making costume for about 10 years now. Recently started to travel the world judging and stuff like that. It's been really cool. Where I can see so many amazing costumes overseas, and I feel super jealous that we get to do some kind of stuff here. So this is kind of the main drive of this. Because I go there and I see guys really having so much fun in their contest, and I feel that we are just kind of missing out a little piece that we should have back again.
And why do you feel like you're fit to host and judge this?
Why? I don't know. I mean, I'm probably crazy enough to put myself forward. You know, I know it's going to be a hard task, but I think that we're both experienced enough, and we are part of the community, but we're not super in the community, so we can be from the outside looking in. Obviously, we both have industries experience as well, so that kind of helps. So we're not just pure costume, cosplay, we are coming from the costuming world as well. And we both just worked together before as well, All Stars, so we know that we can judge together. Even though we are good friends, but we are quite separate in our thinking as well. And we both have different skills.
Yeah.
You know, I'm more armor guy and she's more of a sewer. We just have to find someone else who does how we need.
So for those who don't know me, I'm Victoria Gridley. I am originally from Australia. I've been doing costuming for a very, very long time now. Not so much in the cosplay world these days, but I have a history of cosplaying in Australia from the early 2010s. I now work for the Royal New Zealand Ballet, sometimes with Weta Workshop with Summit. I'm a designer and a maker and a milliner and a whatever. But yeah, that's kind of why we feel that we're appropriate to kind of bring this back to the thing is that we can remain unbiased. We come from a really technical background in both film industry, stage industry, all of that. So we can come with a really professional image for you. And that's together. We did represent New Zealand in Australia at PAX a few years ago with our friend Jay. We created Reaper from Overwatch. We did come third, but that's because competition over there is amazing. So hopefully we can get things like that happening.
What was that stand shield?
It was the eyes. It was the eyes. But that's okay. So what are cosplay competitions? Do you want to start this one?
I don't know more with me with cosplay. I mean, obviously I judged them, but I've never been to them.
Yeah, so cosplay competitions to me are a place where, again, you can see the small, you can see the big, you can really have your moment in the spotlight, show people the things that you're super proud of, show them the things that you've learnt to make what you're making, geek out about the fandom that you're wearing, the things that people might not see just walking past you on the side.
I guess it's a chance to really deep dive into your costumes, you know, to have someone see all the stuff you do behind the background, you know, all the stuff you do inside the scenes, all the extra research you've done, those kind of things where there's not enough time on the floor. There's time the judges can see, we can highlight it, and to get recognition for what you've done as well. You know, you guys spend months on your costume, money on your costumes, and it's nice to have a little recognition afterwards.
Yeah, one thing about cosplayers from my point of view is we all love validation. Yay! We don't do it because we don't want to be perceived, we do it because we do want to be perceived. So let us perceive you. And it's not so much about competition and being better than others, it's about beating yourself previously or just showing off what you can do and then having that as a stepping stone to maybe it is something that you want to turn into a career, or maybe it is something that you want to be able to apply to other bits and pieces and say, hey, I want to join this other competition because I have this background or I've won this award through this thing. It's a nice accreditation that you can add to resumes, add to whatever it is that you want to do in life. Cosplay has such a broad background of things that you need to know to do or figure out how to do that is so interchangeable through your life. Like any job that you might not have done before, you can be like, I'm a really quick thinker and I'm really quick at learning because I cosplay, because I have to learn a skill that I've never known before and I pick that up because I'm passionate about it. Those things are things that employers really value, and having an award on your CV is always nice.
I guess when you're making costumes, it's nice having something to strive for and a bit to go to. But again, have a contest where doing this because you get to showcase it and you get to work really hard at it and you know that the judges are going to love it, then the whole crowd's going to love it as well. It's just, sometimes you just come to a con for photo, which is great.
Yeah.
You have to just something extra, right? Isn't it?
And just those memories.
Yeah.
We're all about creating memories in a way that will stick, and I think that is something that the parade is great, but it doesn't stick in the way your brain that a cosplay competition does, for me at least. Cool. Moving on. Or not. Yay. So there's different types of competitions across the world, and one that we haven't really done here in New Zealand much is adding in the skits. So it's something that we would love to do in the future, because I come from a background of skits and I love them, and I think it's just a different way to showcase. So while some people might be confident in crafting, some people might be less confident in crafting, but more confident in actual presence, or like being the character and being able to portray the jokes and the fun and just like showcase that. So being able to offer different types of categories and different types of awards kind of gives a bigger range of what we can potentially have on stage.
And I guess it's something that the rest of the world are doing now. It's no longer just a crafting contest anymore. It's becoming a lot more performance-based. Like most places, the criteria can be either 50-50, 50 performance, 50 making, or 60-40, but there's always an element of performance. And most of the time, the actual winner is not finalized until we see the performance as well. And if we want to join the world, we have to unfortunately do this as well.
So it's nice to be able to have a stage here that we can practice that on before, say, maybe we want to join the World Cosplay Summit, where everybody has to do a skit, and there's a whole lot of rules that we need to learn. So if we can help implement some of those things, that will help bridge that gap between the other countries' competitions and us, and that will help get New Zealand on the map. Have you got anything else to say about that? Or?
No, I mean, like, skits are fun. Even I tried it once.
What did you do?
In Switzerland 2 years ago.
Why have I not seen
little
this?
skit for my Mando.
Aww.
It's online somewhere.
One of the other things that we're really passionate about is that we want this to be open to professionals and to hobbyists. So having both the beginner categories and the people who work in industry all able to compete. New Zealand is a small country and a lot of them do also work in industry. So being able to have the different levels of category will kind of, what's the opposite of reduce? Enhance how many people can enter and how many people that we can show off. Because again, you get a lot of people in like C2E2 and in America, they are professional cosplayers entering these contests if they're not judges. So how can we compete against them if we're not also giving the wide range of what is our best as a country?
We want to see the best over there. That's the whole point of it. And by competing with someone who's professional, it will lift your level up as well. If you just keep on doing amateurs, everyone who just hobbyists all the time, you're just going to stay at the same level. Once you compete with the best, you will push yourself and you'll learn from them as well. And eventually you'll just lift up as higher and higher.
I think it also bridges the gap between the people who are just hobbyists and the professionals, is like getting to craft together and creating groups and doing bits and pieces. It kind of makes that a little bit more accessible.
And the gap is tiny now anyway.
Yeah.
The only thing that's different is just experience.
Yeah.
Those guys have more time. And when you come to equipment, come to resources, it's all the same.
Yeah.
Just experience and time. That's all it is.
So yeah, that's something that we're really interested in. In different types of rules, things that we're also looking at is like group rules. Overseas, there's a lot of things where like a group is only 2 people, or a group could be more. Like traditionally in Australia, it was as many as you could fit on the stage. But how do you judge that? Do you judge each person individually in the group, or do you judge them as a whole together? So there's some of the things that we're considering putting into the rules. Also categories like, are we doing a props only category as well as overall costumes, something that's more technical versus sewing?
I mean, that depends on sponsorship. Most places where they'll have their main 1, 2, 3, and there'll be all these sponsorship prices. And they can be ranged from hand sewing, technology, props and lights, so that can be depends on sponsorship too. More sponsorship you have, more extra prices you have.
Which we love. If anybody has any hookups, that helps. I've also got another little breakdown of things that we might be looking at in terms of judging. So we want to be super transparent with it. Everybody's going to get a feedback sheet. Everybody's going to get the scores of what happens, because we like people to know the things that we loved and the things that we'd love you to improve on, or the things that we're just like, we want to be super transparent, because I feel like that's useful. This was one idea of some rules that we were thinking about, all our lovely Fs, but yeah, it's about the make, it's about the finish, it's about how you present it, it's about the different skills that you've used. Is it one skill across the entire thing, or have you done 5 different things? Is there anything that you haven't done before that this is the first time that you're doing? Like, we'll have to obviously scale those judging things, because if we know that you've done something for the first time on this costume, we're not going to judge it as harshly as if you've been sewing for 20 years. Like, we're going to expect nicer seams if you've been sewing for 20 years. But bits and pieces, again, would be super transparent about that kind of stuff.
Let's have access to us. You know, after the comp's done, you come and talk to us and ask questions. So it won't be the comp's done. See you, bye.
Yeah.
It's not how it's going to be about. Talk about workbooks.
Oh, I don't think I should.
So obviously, like workbooks is one. Workbooks is one thing that we don't do here, really, and some that do a lot overseas. So it'd be a little, like, kind of like a little whip. All the stuff you've done. Don't be a novel, just do little, pictures and some phrases, so good to go. But having that is really cool. Just show that what you made is what you made, not just you just download it or just bought it. Just show you made it.
And I know that the workbook can be intimidating for some people, and we're going to try to simplify it from what has been done in past years, where we'll provide a template where you just have to fill in the information for bits and pieces, and there'll be like areas of, hey, I used a pattern from this other creator online during this part, or hey, I modified this pattern to do this, or I experimented on this, just to kind of show us the breakdown of how much is your work, how much might have been influenced by others' work, that kind of thing. It's just to kind of help us get the idea on the percentage that is purely you. Obviously, people don't have to make shoes, and like, you don't have to hand weft the wig and things like that. If you do, great, but just to, yeah, kind of see the percentages of everything. And if you did have help through it, help is fine. It's just, yeah, the percentages is really what we're looking for. And yeah, the workbook, it's just work in progress as you do it. I don't think it has to be a final novel unless it's something you want to release online for money, maybe. I know some makers are doing that. But yeah, it's just a little thing for us to kind of gauge the process of. Cool. The next thing, possible schedules. So again, this is super rhetorical, all in hindsight, but like, essentially, we're at this panel right now. This is step 1. Yay! Next year, we'd love to host the first one. We'd probably start with technical only, because as soon as you start entering like audios and visuals and all of that, it just gets harder and harder. So if you start drip feeding the ideas of competitions and doing things a little bit more complex year by year, we'd sort of be able to do it. At the moment, we're kind of looking just at 1 to start, and probably Auckland, because it is the bigger cosplay central. It'd be nice to open it up to Wellington as well, but
obviously it depends on where we're going to do it.
Where and who wants to sponsor and all of that. In our pipeline dreams, we'd love to create a little cosplay village, which would have like demos of things, have like display costumes. We'd love to display the past year winners and things like that. Same as we've got the Stranger Things down there now. There's nothing to say that we can't show our community either.
I've been to a few overseas where the whole floor is just cosplay. I mean, one whole floor.
Yeah.
Whole floor is all cosplay. You have cosplay guests, you have cosplay workshops, you have cosplay related stores.
Yeah, you get your photo opportunities.
For me, it's cool.
Yeah. So it'd be cool to be able to get to that kind of stuff. And then in the future, again, sending people overseas, that would be the pipeline dream. That's what really is pushing all of this from the start. It's just we want to.
Yeah, it can happen. I mean, like, I have people who are keen to help out. I want to make sure that we put ourselves first, that we can do it.
Yep.
That there's a want there, there's a numbers there. If there's numbers there, there's a want there, that we can work on those connections. Hopefully, make that happen.
Start small, work out, all of that. The hard lines. So obviously the cosplay competition doesn't exist currently. There were some issues that happened in the community a few years ago that you will probably know in the background. If this is to happen, there will be an absolute zero bullying tolerance. That is for the safety of anybody in the competition, so entrants, judges, hosts, all of that. And from there, like if Armageddon is to host us, they are in no way responsible for the decisions made at the competition. That would be upon Sana, I, and whichever other judge that we get. Bill and Therese do a lot of good work here, but they are not on the floor with us during these moments. So like to be sending them potential abuse or anything is just not on, and we will not stand by it. To reduce this, obviously, we want to be fully transparent. Like, we want to be able to talk to you if you have any issues or if you're unsure about a decision made. That comes to us. But this is like a big hard line. If there's any nonsense, it's going to disappear again.
The whole idea was it won't just be me, but be someone else as well.
Yeah.
An impartial judge, someone overseas, someone that no one knows as well. So keep that as a third person.
Yeah, just to help balance it all out. Everything is good in threes. But essentially, yeah, that's the basis of what we have to start with. Feel free to come up and ask any questions. We have a lovely microphone in the middle as well, and I'll be taking notes as well. But what we want to know is what it is that you want. Do you not care for skits? Do you really want it to not be an awkward? I don't know. There's a whole lot of questions to be had, but there's no point in us building something that you don't want. That's pretty much the basis of it. So this is...
Obviously we do in this, we want you guys to have a place to come and showcase yourself and be driven by the community. Pretty much.
And if it's not a cosplay comp, do you have other ideas of things that you feel like is missing that could be in a replacement situation of it? Like, I don't know what that might look like, but is there something else that we could pitch to Armageddon that would be like, hey, they don't actually want this, but they do want this other thing that we've never had before. Let's look at that. So yeah, if anybody does have questions, we are open. Otherwise, we can just keep riffing. Feel free, please come up.
Winner from 20 years ago. Actually, so something about when I was competing back then, no rules really, just random judges, and we just turned up and got a prize or not. And
Yep.
But our group was one that had done a skit, and that was really new, and we won. And we weren't sure how that was possible because our costumes were not great, but we had a group of 6, we had someone on a mic. Would you consider skits like their own competition, or is that just an extra nice like performance thing?
So it wouldn't be separated because essentially that could potentially be more towards the lip sync side of things, which will also still exist.
Yeah.
But the skits itself maybe won't be judged as harshly on the construction of things. It will be more performance-based and more presence-based kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the levels of what we're looking for will differ if you're looking to do a skit versus. And I think with that, there will be prizes specifically that are, this is the skit category, open and novice, and then this is the technical, open and novice. And depending on what the interest is, we could also look at if someone is in a group skit but wants to only be considered for the technical, we could also just judge that separately. That's something that we've obviously got to work out, and we'll again take some ideas and inspiration from other competitions around the world and see what they're basing it on. But yeah, my idea is that just that the percentages of things looked for would change.
Yeah, that's good, because I think when we did it, we actually were in character when we were going through our costumes,
Yeah.
which I think would be very difficult for a lot of people with their costume versus their character that
Yeah.
they're doing. So yeah, it would be good to know, be very clear how separately they are being judged, and
Yep.
you know.
It depends on the comp that we're going to think with. Some comp will like, as I said, 50-50, some like 70-30.
Yeah.
I did one last year, we did 5 comps in one, and they're all different. So it just depends which one we're going to link up with, and we just have to follow the rules.
Yeah, so if we're really pushing for the World Cosplay Summit or something, we'll take pretty much their rules, simplify them slightly as we're starting out, and like give it a little bit more leeway, but really like push towards that. But I think at the beginning couple, we'll be a bit more lenient to all of that and see what works for us here, and then refine as to what people want to do in future.
I think my feedback would be as long as you are making those rules really clear well in advance, because you know how long.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a big, especially if you're aiming for next year.
Yeah.
People will probably be starting now. So
That is, I mean, it'll be a year from when we can actually get a slot.
Yeah.
But with that, what was I going to say? Because we'll do the not the tutorial, but the template of the workbook. We'd probably release the actual judging amounts as well, so that people just know what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Because I find that personally really helpful, and like in drag competitions that I used to do, that was always handy, giving them like what we are looking for on stage. Because there was one that I did a few years ago, the Queerable Arts. It's not necessarily just based on looking like a World of Wearable Arts piece, it's still drag, so I still want the performance that matches the piece that you've made and all of that. So we will probably release that early as well.
With that said, what do you think about like costumes or cosplays that are released in multiple competitions? Like, is there exclusive? Will there be like just something to think about? Not to answer right now, but exclusivity around.
I think we did have one note in our other bits and pieces that if it had won a major prize, it would not be eligible in this competition, just to keep it fair for everybody else, because it looks like overseas, this is not to like be mean or anything, but it looks like a lot of people enter things in competitions and then just rework parts of it and then re-enter it again. I think that that wouldn't be a thing that we'd be looking for. We'd be looking for something that has not won a prize before, pretty much in its entirety. Because I think that's just more fair across what you're competing, rather than if you're just doing like a 50% upgrade of something that you already have. That's won a prize already. That feels just a little bit more contentious to me.
And then would you have also like limits on how long a costume, for example, I made one 5 years ago, didn't show it to anyone really then, but could I enter it into a cosplay now?
I think that would be fine if you hadn't already won something with it. I don't have any problems with that personally, and we can think about that further. And we've been talking to Emerald in Australia, who does a lot of work with the World Cosplay Summit and things like that, and she'll have some good ideas on that too, which we can bring to her and just see what other people do, and then make our decisions based on that.
We should know pretty soon about the venue, if it'll be here or not. So
Yeah, true.
we've seen build up for this, so we'll know pretty soon what's going to happen.
That's enough from me. Everybody else is
Marty.
Thank you.
I'm curious if there would be any room for a category where someone is, like, separately you are making a cosplay but it's on someone else, like you are not the model necessarily?
I think that that would totally be fine, as long as that's just really like outlaid in the beginning.
Yes.
And I think the one thing that we would get into trouble with a little bit is if like there's a group of people working on one. So say that there's one entire studio working on a cosplay that someone else is wearing. That feels like it's not in the spirit of competition to me. But if it's like a solo or a duo, would probably be my limit of how many people could work on it. That would be fun.
That also for like smaller children who can't necessarily do certain power tools are not.
In terms of anyone under the age of say 16, 15, I think having parental guidance is completely fine. And if it is the majority that the parent has done it and the kid is just ripping it and vibing it, that's also fine. We can judge it more towards the parent.
Pretty fixable. I mean,
Yeah, I think that wouldn't be a problem. It's just as long as you haven't got, say, Weta Workshop working on one $50,000 worth of costume.
if they pay me so good.
No, you're illegal. You're not allowed. That would be where my line is.
No,
but,
that makes sense. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, just on that as well, I think if a competitor is being sponsored by another company to make something for the competition, that would also not really vibe for me. I think that hits it as that as a job, not a competition experience in terms of this. I know that some people do that overseas, but I'm just like...
Hi, I'm Shante. I have 3 questions. First one, I'm going to push back a little on the idea of not starting super professional to all of those standards at first, because at least I find if you're working towards a goal, the sooner you start working towards that goal, maybe a separate competition for people who want to get there, but they're going to get there a lot faster if they're judged and they're like, so that's where I'm weak. That's where I need to spend more time on next year. The second is that there is something in the nursing world known as posters. which might be a nice way to introduce people into the portfolio concept, because they can make a single poster,
Yep.
which is very similar to what you did in grade school sometimes anyway, and is a little less terrifying than a workbook
Yep.
that they may not have familiarity with. The third is, hi, I'm an immigrant from the US. You guys don't know me. I used to work for professional theater for 6 years. I make costumes. I've done events, created events, managed events, including some LARPs here. So I offer myself up for your third.
Afterwards, if you want to give us your details, that would be great to collaborate.
Cool.
Thank you.
So I had a couple things.
Yep.
Would you consider more than two categories, more than just sort of novice and open? Because I feel like if you're letting in professionals, there's sort of a space in the middle.
Yep.
Where it's like, I've not ever entered any competitions, but I've been cosplaying for like 10-ish years on and off.
Yep.
So I feel like it would be unfair to enter novice. But like going into open against professionals feels
Scary.
very scary.
Yeah, no, that totally
I
understand.
mean, I guess it depends on number of entries.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Just it's a hard one. Obviously, we will judge people on the merits. If you see someone who's coming midway, we'll judge you that way. We won't judge you like as your professional. It'll be no. If you're a novice, that's fine.
Yeah, if I know that someone's gone to Toy Facati and they don't bring me beautiful seams, I'm going to judge them. But if I know that someone hasn't gone to Toy Facati or fashion school, then I will be less critical on that kind of thing. So that will kind of, with like the workbook or the poster, that will be prevalent to us as to what your history is and what we should be looking for in you. So I think it's not going to be a direct comparison necessarily, but if, say, we know that you come from just a background of being a hobbyist versus you do this every day for work,
Yeah.
we're not going to judge you as a hobbyist saying that you should be as good as someone who does this every day for work. That's not what we'd be looking for.
That's fair. The other thing was, and like this isn't a right now sort of thing, but as this competition gets better, like bigger, it's gonna start attracting international entrants.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that? Of like, I don't know, in the future having like Australian cosplayers and actually others.
Probably if we were going to send someone here to overseas to New Zealand, obviously if you're from Australia you can enter, but you can't win the main prize to go represent New Zealand because you're not from here.
Yeah.
Same with the Australian, like for Comic-Con, Kiwis are allowed to enter, but we can't win the major prize. So if we're welcome to enter, Japan, Australia, America, it's cool, but if you're going to win, we have a rep for someone for a comp, it would be a local.
I think it would also be a good thing to open that up and say, yes, you can enter, but again, there will be conditions upon it. Because we've got to consider, A, it costs people to put these on. Like, it will cost Armageddon for us to take a slot off their stage, and it will cost them to give us an AV person to be able to put this on. So we have to give them back something. If we're bringing in people from overseas who want to compete, then we kind of need to let them.
Yeah.
But in saying that, being that it's a New Zealand competition versus all the Australian ones, that we're not going to beat their sponsors that they've already got. So it's people who already want to come here and are probably at a similar level. I can't see the top of Australia coming to our little competition at the beginning. Like, I feel like as it would build, things might shift as we see different people entering and different wants happening. But to start with, I would say yes, they would be able to enter, but again, there would probably be conditions on it.
If it was to be looking from the start, we'll make it completely clear. There'll be no surprise, guess what, sorry.
I just want to expand on what they were saying earlier about defining who a professional is.
Yes.
Because I've been cosplaying for 20 years.
Yep.
I've entered quite a few competitions, but I'm not a professional. I
Yep.
do it for a day job. Yeah.
I think professional to me is someone who gets paid to do this. So if you're a professional cosplayer because companies sponsor you, you're a professional even though you don't necessarily work in a costuming industry. That's still counts to me, but say you're a hobbyist who's been doing it for 20 years, but you haven't got any technical training behind you and you have not worked in industry, I would not say at that point you are listed as a professional. That would be more open.
What about sort of education-wise? So say you've been to toy, but not necessarily that's then eventuated into an industry.
If you've educated but not worked in industry, I would say still like novice open, like not novice but open category. I think professional means that you have been paid to do this.
And my final thing, if you enter 1 year with one costume, you get all the notes back, you
Yep.
don't win anything.
Yep.
Would it be okay to enter the next year having those notes, fixing up the things that were listed as wrong, and then entering it again the next year?
I don't see why not on that either. If it hasn't won an award previously and you've taken the notes back, I think that that's totally valid.
That's me done.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm terrified to be giving input. I'm actually from Canada, and I've also been doing conventions since 2002. And the group I'm with, we actually run cosplay contests back home.
Amazing.
And one thought, I know you've got the novice and open. We've got 4 categories, which would be novice, journeyman, artisan, and master. And that's based on your skill level. Oftentimes, even if you've never competed, if the judges felt that your costume was better, if you entered as a novice, but they think it's like an artisan, or they've bumped people up based on that as well.
What's between journeyman and master?
Artisan.
Thank you.
And it's also based on awards that you've won.
You're
So,
stealing it right now.
It's all just notes.
and like one thing they do is if you won an award as a novice, you're journeyman for the next year.
Oh, yeah.
You win 2 awards as a journeyman, you become an artisan, and it's based on that. And it's all also based on judges' discretion. I just thought I'd maybe give
That's awesome. Thank
that thought.
That's a handy note.
Yeah.
you. I think right now.
Writing it down.
I was afraid to say.
Hi. I don't know, because there's Overload has a costume contest. I don't know if you've talked to any of the runners of the contest there.
Not yet.
I would, because the. With the the skit category is 50% costume, 50% skit. But then all the if you don't win in the skit category, because that's the overall is the that's the overall winner. They get moved into just the creation of it.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that might be like a good sort of idea to sort of like you can shift them into it, so people have more opportunities to win awards.
We like the one I did last year. We had 35 entries, and we had like 8 major prizes and 25 sponsor prizes. So if we can, everyone gets something.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of like dealing, just go there, like go there. So we'll try and be as fair as we can. But I see like there's always room for improvement.
Yeah. Probably think about it.
I'm just going to jump off that. Again, if you've entered one category but we feel it really fits in a different category, we'd probably have a disclaimer if you're open to the judges moving you across categories just as you sign up for it, I guess. If you're open to that, then if you're happy for us to discretion that ourselves, that would be a thought that I would have.
In your slide that had the F's rating, you mentioned making things yourself compared to things you bought. How would you see 3D printing factoring into that with like designing the model versus printing it versus?
I think as long as you disclose if you bought the model but printed it yourself, or if you bought it as a printed thing, and whether that's like 50% of the costume is someone else has modeled it and printed it and just sent it to you, or whether you've done part of that process. Having either the workbook or the poster will show us that balance, and then from there we can kind of make that discretion as to, oh, he has done a lot of work, like sanding it and priming it and all of that sort of stuff, but he didn't necessarily model it. I think that's fine. We all don't have to be good at everything. Like, I am not a props person, Sana is. Sana is not a seamstress, although you can do something. He is a good, he can. But we don't expect everyone to be perfect at everything. Just as long as you disclose anything that you haven't done yourself, then we're happy to just judge around that.
One thing I do say, if a piece of costume or the prop is the main part of your character, prefer that you make it rather than buy it. I had someone a few years ago that made the Green Goblin. The whole costume was done by the person, but the mask was a bought mask, which he painted. But for me, the mask is the character. If you did not make that, it kind of like defeat the purpose. You know what I mean?
Okay, so like if you were to buy the models but print it and prime it, fill it, sand it, paint it, that wouldn't exclude you from.
It wouldn't exclude you. It would just change the percentage of like what we might rate it as. Yeah.
Right, thanks very much.
Thank you. It's kind of no different than buying a simplicity pattern and sewing that together. Someone else has made that pattern and you've then adapted and worked with it to make it the thing that you want. So I have no problem with if there are models online and patterns online, like we've probably all used Lightning Cosplay and Kinpatsu's horn patterns and things like that, and glove patterns. So yeah, I have no problem with the model as long as you've actually done something to put it together.
Hi. I know it's all, well, starting with approval dependent and then numbers dependent.
Yep.
And I agree, Auckland would be a great place to start the competition, but just as someone from Christchurch, I know there is a gigantic community of people who would really, really love to see a cosplay competition, and I don't really have any input or questions beyond just wanting to represent that.
Trust me, my first idea when I talked to Bill about it was twice 2 years ago, and I also did it down south and up here in Wellington. But as I said, it's got to start somewhere.
Exactly.
If it does kick off, then we can make it bigger.
And Auckland having the numbers and the big competition, the big conventions, like that's obviously going to be the best place to start.
But also thank you for repping Christchurch.
Yeah.
Telling us that you want it.
Yeah. Well, I know my friends would be gutted if we didn't get something eventually.
Yeah.
Like, the main goal is to have it everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. That's the
just
idea.
pick one, see how that goes.
Yeah.
Just based off that as well, there's one thing that I didn't actually put in the slideshow, but one other idea that we had is that, yeah, if Armageddon doesn't want us, would you be interested in an after hours event tagged onto convention? So if we did like a 7 p.m. in town, have some little like drag artists between things, have the technical category, have the skit category, and make it more of a show with like a $5 koha, just entry kind of thing to cover the cost. Is that something that would work if we can't get the cost?
I think that's a hell of a
That's okay, that's wonderful to know, because that means that if we get shut down here, there's still like high want for that. So that's wonderful to hear. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, to add on top of that, just
Yep.
in case, like, especially if people have been in con all day, their makeup and wig and everything has
Yep.
deteriorated pretty much.
How would prejudging work in terms of having it at a different location, say later in the...
I mean, we could always do a prejudging at the convention because we only need our space for that. We don't need stage time or anything like that. And I feel like if we just have a moment of the location to be like, let's do prejudging here, and then if we were to say move it to another place, if it was like 7 or 8 p.m., we'd have some kind of fitting room situation to refresh yourself. Like any performance, there'd be a green space for the people who are competing and performing. Oh, sorry.
They do prejudging in the morning.
Yep.
They'll give you, when you sign up, a time slot.
Oh, yep.
They show up for that time slot, they do prejudge, and then they show up later in the afternoon for the contest.
Yeah.
You're not having to worry.
Well, last year was the day before, so on day 0,
Yeah.
that's the judging. Then you Saturday is the.
Can I also just add to that, if it was at a separate venue, it would be a lot easier for family and friends to come.
Totally.
You wouldn't have to pay $28 to get into Armageddon
Just to watch it, yeah.
That's good, man. Good to know.
Hello. Just want to say that this is absolutely great because basically I spent 10 years perfecting my sewing and then I decided to start getting into comps and then I had one opportunity at comp and then it stopped. So, gutted. Love this. I had a few things. It'd be really cool to see some sort of sustainability kind of initiatives because I think there's quite a few people here focused on, op shopping and reusing, recycling. So, and especially in cosplay, you can see a lot of waste. So that would be really cool to see.
You're a cowboy comp right now.
The second thing is how fan art would be approached because I know quite a lot in the States and stuff. There's a lot of rules around what fan art you use and how old the fan art has to be before you can start using it, etc.
Yeah.
When you come to legal stuff, it's not quite true, but for me, I think it's fine as long as you select the picture that you're going to make before
Yeah.
and then stick to it.
Yeah, I think my thing is that you cannot design it because then you would just design it based on the skill and things that you want to do. I think it has to be something that is in existence.
Already in the world.
Already in the world.
Yeah.
It's a little bit dicey if you get someone to make the design for you and then enter it at a future con, but that's to say I wouldn't necessarily say no to that, because if that's the brief that you're sticking to and you're not making changes on that design at all, that's what I want to see, is that here is a picture, this is what I'm making, this is what I as a judge want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a similar thing like Tuafikari does the major works, and it's we're not allowed to design that piece because we then have the ability to change it based on timelines and things like that, and be like, oh, actually they don't have a prop, or actually we don't want to make that belt. So
yeah, I think that's what it's like in the States as well. They say like, oh, the fan art has to be in existence online, where you can basically timeline when it existed, so that you can't then say like, oh, well, I'll just create the piece after you've made the thing, so it matches completely.
Yeah, no, but like Hannah Alexander and things like that, they make beautiful, beautiful fan arts, and I want to see that in real life. So
Same as well. Same question.
yeah, I have no issues with any of that. It's just we want to see that picture, and that is what we want to see made.
Yeah, cool. And the third thing was just that I definitely resonated with the whole more than two categories, because I didn't feel comfortable putting myself in novice, even though it was my first competition, because I had been stoned for 10 years. But I was up against pretty much everyone in my category was best in show winners. So yeah.
I guess once you enter, as a weekend change.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, it really depends on how many people enter, because if 4 people enter and we have 8 categories, we're like...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's a practicality on it as well.
But yeah, it'll probably start off with like, probably 4 to 6 or something like that, and then build from the amount of hype and the interest and things that we see coming through. Like, say if we don't start off with a lot of props, but then suddenly we get prop makers coming in being like, I just want to be judged for this really cool sword I made, or something like that, then we can start to introduce that and find sponsors for these things.
Thank you.
Thank you. There we go about maybe 12 minutes. So let's
Hello, I'm also an ancient time cosplayer who's been doing this for a while. One of the things that was really cool about the contest that used to be here, and obviously this is something that once you guys have built up whatever it is you guys are doing as well, if you could have regional based winners, so like the one from Christchurch has flown up to the finals that are here in Auckland, etc, etc. And something else that would also be cool on top of that is potentially reaching out to smaller conventions in New Zealand. Like, hello, I'm from Sandbox, I judge the contest up there, and it'd be really cool to maybe work with them and see if, you know, the best in show, if they work in line with the rules that are set up. If the Sandbox representative for Whangarei in Auckland, you know, could come and represent down in Auckland at the end of the year, because that would be great.
Obviously, like, we don't want to be the overall contest. That's not what it's all about. We want to work together if we can. As in, like, for us, this is just us starting out. Also, we have big goals.
Yeah, we have very
big goals, but we want to like say, we are the only one. That's not true. But I see, like, yeah, man, we love to like intellect.
Yeah.
We got heaps of talent up in Auckland.
Yeah, and I mean, all of that sounds great. It's basically a financial thing at that point. Is getting people to and from other conventions. Is we need the people backing us up to make that happen. But if we can make it happen, fuck yeah, let's get people moving. Let's bring them over. Let's put things on display and be like, these people won the competition in Whangarei or something. That would be great.
Hi, I'm a pretty new cosplayer, and I got one cosplay competition as a novice before it got cancelled, so I'm really hyped about this, and thank you so much for putting in all the effort. There's a couple of things I wanted to ask. Well, first of all, I know there's a lot of people in the cosplay community that would be really willing to help out if you guys need any volunteer support for the convention times. Like, I know myself, if I were to enter the competition, I'd be more than happy to facilitate whatever volunteer stuff needs to happen. I did have a question about like the ages. with like junior cosplayers or like teens or over 18, do you guys think that you might do anything to?
I guess with juniors, as long as the parents is there as well, fine.
Yeah.
And I also think that that really depends, like if we have one child entering a competition, it's a little bit hard to category based. So like it comes into it when we do open it up, is how many people enter, what kind of people enter, then we can really look at the categories and refine them. It will be nice, we'll have some that are like automatically there when you're signing up so that you know what you're getting into, but if we can then introduce, because we're like, oh, we've got 10 people under 16 that are entering, let's open up a category for under 16-year-olds, like that kind of thing. That really just depends on who's entering, and we won't unfortunately know that until we start.
Of course. And then one more question about like the designs of the cosplay, because I know that there's the canon to the movie.
Yep.
But I've definitely been getting more into, and I know that I'm kind of inspired by you as well, making like your own version of that character's design. And this is also with the fan art, but I was wondering, would that just be flat out not allowed?
As this Victoria said, you can't design your own costume. That's the hard
Yeah,
part. If you
that's
find
what I'm kind of thinking.
you find it's art out there that have the same kind of feel that you want to go for,
Right. Okay.
similar to that picture, then we know this is what you're going to make.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think once we were into the swing of things, if people really wanted to be like, I want to design my own costume, we could have a chat about that, and it would be kind of like, okay, we need the design before you start anything, because that is what it's going to be, that's the finalized thing, and work from there. We just really need to be clear cut about that.
That'd be my dream, is to have you guys do your own design.
Did you have a little, sorry?
Just similar to that, just like contextually, I've been really wanting to build her stuff for Frozen, but I'm already in indigenous farming techniques.
Oh, yeah.
But there's no like.
Yeah.
Well, look, we might do a little like survey before we do anything, then we can like go from there. But that, for me, I love it. Let's do it. Let's do it right now.
I mean,
yeah, on a
that runs into a side thing that could also happen over time, is whether we do more of like a fashion situation where, say, is it one of the big cons in America where they do yes, that kind of thing, where it is that you're bringing your own design of a character to it. That could be something that we introduce in the future.
But for the moment, absolutely have to apply rules.
Thank you. Was that it? Yeah.
So just with, because I come from an Islamic background, I make all my costumes to be quite modest.
Yep.
I'm not comfortable with showing
Yep.
parts of my body. What do you think about that? Like,
That's fine.
is that,
That's part of your religion.
Because like, yeah, exactly. So like my Padme that I bought yesterday, I added sleeves because she's very not halal.
I mean, I think as long as we understand where it's coming from and that it has a valid reason to have changed, then that's fine. And like, obviously religion is completely a valid reason. And say, if someone was a hijab wearer and they didn't want to wear a wig and they wanted to wear a hijab, we're not going to judge you against that. That would be wrong.
As long as we know. They'll just come up, hey, it's,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was
Yeah. No, that's totally fine.
5 minutes, so
Let's go.
Hi, I'm a cosplayer from yonks ago, but this is about like designing of cosplays. I brought different industries into cosplay. I do traffic management, and just like if you see something out there and you got a reference photo, can you bring that into cosplay as it hasn't been cosplayed?
as I said, like it come out as long as the image is there before you start it.
Yep.
Us have to make sure that you make what you tell us you're going to make.
Yeah.
Don't just change it, us knowing.
Yeah, and not just making the costume and then drawing it afterwards and being
Yeah,
like,
it's got to have
"This is
it's got to have
design."
some origin of where
Yeah.
it's come from.
Yeah.
And also, another thing is, I notice a lot of cosplayers, and this is a big thing, is as you said, like the behaviour sort of thing with cosplays, is in each category that you're going to have. If somebody violates its terms and conditions and they've already won, will there be repercussions to that cosplayer if they've violated?
I'm gonna let hopefully get to it, but I mean it's probably rules we
Yeah.
I think it's not a thing that we would be able to take something back. Like it has happened, and then the events say happened.
Yeah.
They would perhaps be blacklisted from future competitions based on experiences, but from there, like it would kind of go through a process of we need to figure out what happened from all sides of the story, not just this person said that I was shit or whatnot, and it's just word of mouth. Like, we need to really...
You need facts.
We need facts, and we need to get down to the nitty gritty. And we're hoping that none of that will happen, because then it will all get shut down. And if things get too convoluted and too he said, she said, blah, 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 we don't like this person, so we'll just put a slam campaign against them, then it will get shut down, because it gets too messy, and we can't say, hey, we weren't there, so let's side with this person. I don't want to do that. So if it gets too messy, and if people can't be honest with us, and there can't be a clear-cut answer, then that's it, unfortunately.
Okay, fair enough.
With
Thank
social
you.
media, we can see everything pretty much. It's hard to hide stuff now.
It is hard.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just add to the something that worries me is that someone not doing cosplay, not in the competition, someone outside the competition is going to look in and be mean or be horrible, and then the whole thing's going to get cancelled.
So I think if it's coming completely from the outside and not from any of our competitors or like our like comeback audience, things like that, it's a little bit of a water off a duck's back. Like, we'll take it seriously. We'll make sure that anybody who was involved in it is okay and things like that. Yeah. But yeah, we've just got to really...
The last two, go.
Okay, I'm from ye ancient times, so I'm back in the heyday when the competition was at the height. Have you made considerations, because if you're working with Armageddon and you need stage time, have you made considerations in situations of if you have too many entries?
Yeah, so we will have to cap it if there is too many entries based on the time that we're allowed on stage. Until that happens, it will just be first come, first served. Until we're like, this is a continuation of a pattern thing that's happening, and then from there we'd either move to after hours where we can have more time and make it work, or we'd cut down how many skits are allowed because they take up more time on stage. That's kind of we have to vibe it as it comes.
Super quick, my friend just messaged me to ask about dedicated feedback time after the competition,
Yes.
so dedicated feedback from the judges.
I love feedback. I
Yeah.
want to tell you everything that I love about all of the things that I've seen. So if people want to come to us after that, there will be dedicated time and we'll find a dedicated space.
So for example, if we have the Armageddon, you on a Saturday, talk to us.
Perfect, thank you.
Awesome, thanks guys.
Thank you.